I don't know. It all bleeds together and whatnot. I got to plug in my laptop here real quick. Oh. So we'll see how this looks. I don't know. It looks like the connection's doing some craziness again. So who knows? Had to go grab a Ether port connection here and Ether. So we'll see what this looks like. So we got to try everything. But man, first off, of course, shout out to the sponsors that we have with Two Native Sons, City Cafe, Tabala, and the Chicken Coop. Thank you for each of you for your focus, your love, your passion with the community and whatnot. It's just a beautiful thing, really, to find individuals that dream and look at things bigger and outside of them than a lot of people look at it and whatnot. Also, give a shout out. Every other Tuesday, we have a entrepreneurial, like, whole encompassing book club that Tabby runs. And today was Tabby, myself, Austin, and Mike, and just had a great conversation. And one of the unique things was right now, as you're going through life, do you love yourself? Do you look in the mirror? And I've talked about this, and it's one of those crazy things that do you look in the mirror and can you look at that person reflected back at you and say, I love you. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for who you are. Thank you for everything that you bring. And if you think about it, sometimes that can be hard for individuals in regards to being able to look at themselves and say, I love you. I accept you for who you are. I accept you for everything. I like you for everything that you bring and everything that you provide. But when you look at yourself, how easy is that for you to look at that person and say, I love you? And it's not an easy thing for whatever reason. It's a very unique aspect when it comes to that piece of being able to look at yourself and say, I love you. Thank you for everything that you do. And I think that is a big piece that people have to connect with and run with, because of the fact that your relationship with yourself bleeds into everything else. And so if you don't have a great relationship with yourself, if you don't like yourself and you can't accept who you are, how do you expect to be able to show love to others? How do you expect to be able to unconditionally love others if you can't love yourself for who you are? And it's unique because there's one of the books that I've read, and it's a book I highly suggest people check out and read and whatnot. So there was an art series. And in here, it was talking, there's a quote, what you see in the mirror comes from the mind, not the body. And so think about that. What you see in the mirror comes from the mind, not the body. And so those are your thoughts. How do you view yourself? How do you see yourself? What stories are you telling yourself? And are you going to the point where you're having these negative thoughts and you're stacking these negative thoughts and you're bringing in this negative connotation of who you are? And it's a trouble spot that you can run into by having those negative thoughts that you stack. If you're going and you start off the day on the wrong foot, whatever it is, and you're like, I hate myself, I don't love myself, I'm not worthy, then you're going to start stacking those things. But it comes into the point where if you can be grateful for the small things, if you can be grateful for maybe you're one of the individuals that can really make others smile, maybe you can make them laugh. And so are you grateful for that skill that you have? Are you grateful for that ability that you have to go impact the lives of others? Or maybe you have the ability where you can sit down and talk to individuals and give space to individuals to allow them to show up and be true to themselves. And it's unique because a lot of times as individuals, we want to be able to talk and have that open expression and really share who we are. But it can be a tough thing because we've been jaded and you're scared about what people are thinking. And so you might get to the point where you don't open up and you're not true to yourself. And so think about that. If you're not true to yourself and you're not able to open up and express who you are, how does that impact everything else that happens within your life? How does that impact relationships outside of yourself if you're not able to show up and be true to yourself? And it's unique because in the book club that we have, that I gave a shout out to the 3 individuals, we're reading The Buddha and the Badass, and this is a book that I highly, highly, highly suggest you go and check or go purchase and have it to read on a regular basis, because there's things in here that you need to go through. It's interesting because when you ask individuals, hey, what are your values? What drives you? A lot of times you hear the standard cookie cutter values that everybody else has, or they're values that are very surface level. They don't go deep. And it's the issue of not questioning and not going and doing the deep dive to really see if what you believe, your values that are driving you, are they truly who you are? Are they true to you as an individual? And so in this book, one of the exercises that Vasheen has you go and accomplish is finding your foundational values. And it's a unique thing when you can finally get to those values that are yours and yours alone, not somebody else's, not somebody that was in your life. Maybe you have a lot of times you grow up and you have parents that are like, these are your values. And so you run with them, but you don't ever question them. And then you feel like you're lost because you have things that don't align with who you are. And so in here, he talks about the fact of finding your foundational values. And when individuals ask what my values are, my foundational values are love, growth, connections, and relationships. And there's a couple of different events that have taken place in my life that have led to those values. And it's unique because when I went through this exercise, one of the events that popped up going through it was when I was 10. My only sister was the time, and I was outside playing with the wooden baseball bat, rocks. Didn't know where my sister was, and so wasn't paying attention. And on the last swing, ended up coming on the back and catching her in the chest, and I heard a sickening thud and legitimately, when you hear people talk about they could have killed their siblings as a joking manner, I almost killed my sister. And I believe I was 10 at the time, but I believe she was out for 10 minutes. I believe. I'm not for sure. Like I said, I was 10 years old, but I almost legitimately killed my sister. And it's one of those pieces with the relationship piece and the connection piece, how those instances can really drive the values that you can go and find that are true to who you are as an individual. And they're your actual true values. They're not somebody else's values. But it comes into the fact that there's a chapter in here that really focuses on the idea of loving yourself and getting to that point where you accept yourself for who you are. And that's why I'm really big when I talk to individuals is the relationship that we have to focus on, and the relationship that we need to make sure is strong starts with us. That relationship that we have with ourselves is going to bleed into everything else. So if you don't truly love yourself, and if you don't truly accept yourself for who you are, think about how that impacts other relationships. How does that impact you outside of yourself? Because it's unique. You look, a lot of times people get into a relationship and they don't love themselves, but they're looking at the other person to love them. And then the other party in that relationship is in the same boat where they look and they don't truly love themselves, but they're demanding love from this other person, but both parties don't love themselves. So how do you expect to be able to love somebody if you don't truly love yourself? It's one of these things that you're trying to go to an empty container and get in that empty container and go pour whatever it is on something else. And so think about that. If you don't truly love yourself, how do you go about to loving others? How do you expect to go pour love out onto others if you don't love yourself? But that's where a lot of people have the trouble, is getting to accepting who they are, really loving themselves as an individual, and combating those stories that have built up over time and are driving and really dictating what's taking place. And so that's why I'm big when I work with individuals, is focusing and helping to reestablish and rebuild that relationship with self. And so it's interesting because the chapter for today that we were studying is called Master Unfuckwithability. And I have to laugh because I think this may be the chapter, because I read this book, I think it was last April when I got it. And so I think maybe that's where the love of using the word fuck is coming to play. Because think about it. One of the things that with Two Native Sons is the brand and the idea of creating a Zafuji lifestyle. And if you haven't ever heard of that and you're like, what is he talking about? Zafuji stands for zero fucks given. And it's not one of those things of just walking around, because people will get this negative connotation with it because of how it's been put out there, how people live with it. But it's really showing up and letting people know, hey, it's okay to be true to yourself, to be yourself, to get outside of the box and stay away from the box that people are putting you in. Live your life that's true to yourself, and don't worry about what other people think, because the people that are meant to be in your life will show up as long as you're working on yourself and you're becoming the person that you're meant to be, and attracting those individuals that are meant to be part of your life based on who you're becoming. But it's interesting because in here, the Vasheen talks about the idea of unfuckwithable, and this comes into when you're truly at peace and in touch with yourself. Nothing anyone says or does bothers you, and no negativity can touch you. But it also goes down to the fact that this is the piece that if you truly get to the point where you love yourself, you accept yourself for who you are, you can get to this level where if somebody doesn't like you, cool. Like, it comes down to the fact that you like yourself. And other individuals, regardless of what it is a complementary piece to who you are. And it's not relying on somebody else to create that happiness for you. You create it yourself, and individuals outside of your bubble, outside of your life, is those complementary pieces that will enhance the happiness, that will enhance the satisfaction. But you are the one that creates that. And it starts with, do you truly love yourself? Can you look in the mirror and say, I love you. Thank you for who you are. And it's unique because, like I said, a lot of people have trouble with accepting that and being able to look at them in the mirror and say, I love you. Thank you for what you do. And then kind of going hand in hand with this is another book that I'm reading. It's called Single on Purpose. And it's unique because in here, John, who wrote the book, was talking about the fact that how to make friends as an adult. And I have to laugh because it is unique, because John highlights that as kids, we have things that are at our disposal that kind of has a conveyor belt for friends to come through. So clubs, activities, sports, everything like that, you end up being able to create friends that way. But then as adults, like, it cuts off and we really suck at making friends with people for whatever reason. You got some people that are very good at it and they've worked at it. But it's unique because John talks about in here the fact that to be able to go and start making friends, 3 things that you have to be mindful about when it comes to that is, first is set the intention to make new friends. And go out there and say, I'm going to make new friends. I'm going to the friend that other people want. And so set that intention of, I'm going to go make friends. I'm going to go become friends with individuals. Next one is pick a community you want to engage with. And so that's where right now John talks about the fact that as adults, people are so focused on work, 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 work. Then you get into pieces that you're in a relationship. So there's very little time that people make to go engage in these different communities, find those things that are passionate, find those things that really speak to them and feed their soul. And it's unique because when I look at this, and the last one he says, put yourself out there and say yes to everything. So think about that. You have this issue where a lot of people will get to the point they're going to say no to everything. And by saying no to everything, you're missing out on the opportunity to go meet new individuals. You're missing out on an opportunity to grow and develop and progress. But I look at this because I wish I would have had this book when I went through my divorce and going through the rough patch that I did. But I look at this and I'm like, these are three key things that it's huge while an individual is healing. A lot of times we go through a breakup, we have the expired relationships, the divorce, something happens, and then we start climbing up. And you want to go out there and start putting yourself out there. I understand that it's tough. You have the pain, you have the heartbreak, you're in turmoil, but you've got to get out of the house and out of your head. And so you've got to go out there and start interacting with people, finding those communities, finding things that maybe you weren't able to experience because the other party didn't want to do it. And like, man, I want to do this, but the other person's like, no, I don't want to do this. So now you have the chance to go express and go try it and whatnot and do something different. But also go out there and take on those new experiences that you normally wouldn't do it, because there is a chance that the greatest times that happen are in those times that you really don't want to do something, which is unique how things happen where you're like, man, I don't want to do this. This is stupid. But then you go do it and you're like, man, that was the best thing ever. I wish I would have done this sooner. And it's just unique in regards to that. When we look as adults, we have this trouble spot in regards to trying to make friends. And it is unique because I've talked to individuals and it's been a piece of the conversation that's been brought up where they're like, it's tough making friends. And I was like, oh, okay, interesting. But yeah, so it's interesting on that piece and in regards with that. And then the last thing, because as we're building businesses, we're doing myself and Patrick and of course everything under the sun. But it's unique because I went through a challenge last week and it was called Your Message Matters. And Pete actually shared, he's like, a lot of people are doing things that is not where they're at. And it was interesting because right now you have the fact that everybody's pushing funnel. But then Pete talked about it. Usually funnel really comes into the point when you're scaling your business, but you have somebody that may be starting a business and they get down on themselves. They beat themselves up because they're like, I'm trying to do everything and I'm doing what they're saying, but it's not working out. So the fact that sometimes as individuals, when it comes to selling, people don't want to do it when it comes to sales and marketing because they feel they're being beat up. They're putting in the wrong effort and the wrong focus when they're starting, or they're in a different bucket than what's being shown. And I thought it was interesting and whatnot. So one of the things I've got to find, I think I wrote it down. Maybe I didn't. Let's see here. Take a look at my notes. I wrote this down and now where did it go? Oh, okay. Yeah. So there's three different buckets. You have the start, your momentum, and your scaling buckets. And so you've got to look and ask yourself where you're at. And with the start bucket, and this is also even when you're in the momentum bucket and the scale bucket, go and get on to other people's stages. Go and right now, especially because you got so much going on digitally, is go out there. And I highlighted it's pretty much leveraging the effort and the work that others have done. Because when you think about it, it doesn't cost you any money because you're going out there, as long as you're giving the value, you're going out on the stage and you're giving the value. The other person has put in the time, the effort, the money to build the stage. So you're leveraging what they've already done. And so go out there and get onto other people's stages, share your message, share what's going on. Don't be scared. Go and get in front of people that you normally would not have gotten in front of. And it's unique because I was talking to Patrick, and one of the things that we talked about when we look at this is a couple of things that we do with Two Native Sons. We are building stages for ourselves, but we're also opening up the doors for the piece of other people's stages. So through the Dreamer Cypher, the Business Blast, doing the podcast, doing the lives and whatnot, the fact of having others come on and utilize our stage is we're creating those stages for people. And there's a lot of people that are doing it, but it's understanding the impact that you can create for other individuals by allowing them to use your stage and use it properly and help people understand to share their message, share their signature talk that really started that point, that transitional point to where they're at, why they do what they do. And it's one of those things that was something that was talked about, was figuring out and creating that signature talk. And Pat Quinn shared a minute technique that you can utilize to share this message very quickly and really get it to the point of really connecting with people. And it's interesting because I've heard this and seen this a couple times, but it finally clicked this last when I went through the challenge. And so that's the thing. If you're having trouble figuring out how to craft your signature talk or what to do, what steps to take and whatnot, and you're trying to find that talk that really is that one point in time, because Pat Quinn had talked, it's not giving your resume. It's not sharing these 1,000 different things. It's finding that one thing that was the before, the pivot, and the after. And it's a 3-part series. And so if you're having issues, you just don't know, and you're like, man, I got to get this figured out. I got to be able to connect with people in a quicker process, but figure out a way to allow them to hear what I hear, see what I see, feel what I see, smell what I smelled and whatnot. That's what Pat had shared. And so if you'd like information on that, reach out, send me a message. Love to help you out with that because it's a powerful thing. And it's a very easy thing, but it's easy but powerful. And so if we can get this taken care of and you can get this message tailored down and really that piece that resonates with people, because it goes into the fact that I've shared this. I think I did it Sunday. Maybe I don't remember. But Zig Ziglar had shared that he never impacted the lives by a speaking gig, but he had a bigger chance and a bigger impact with individuals that bought his cassettes. And so now it's not cassettes, it's your program, it's your service. And so think about that. You have an opportunity that, because doing a Facebook Live, going and talking on stage for 30 minutes, anything of that really isn't going to make a huge impact on individuals. Really what's going to make it is when people connect and want to work with you on a deeper level and make that deeper connection to go deeper. That's where the real impact occurs, because you have that opportunity to do more with those individuals. And it's unique because Tom Ziegler had shared a story. They had reached out to 100 customers that have, maybe it was Tom, it was Zig, I don't know, but it was one of those two that they had sent out a testimony to ask for testimonies from their customers and whatnot. So they got 100 testimonies back. One individual out of the 100 said, hey, your talk on stage really impacted me. But then the 99, they said, hey, loved your talks on stage, but truly what really impacted me was your product, your service, whatever it was that they were offering. That is truly what impacted me and helped me make those big, huge leaps, those big changes. And so it's impactful. It's really unique, really, to think about that when it comes to selling and what you have, your products, your services. It is impactful. And so you just got to look at it differently and understand that you have a moral obligation to share your message, to share your service and your products, and go and have individuals utilize them, whatever it is, your products, your service, connect with you, because that's where that true huge impact is made. And so it does come into the point where if you are stuck, you are at your baseline, or you're trying to move, try to get to that thriving point, or you're trying to find your story, and you have to overcome that mindset piece of the negative stories, the negative story that you're telling yourself, that core message that's there that's not serving you. Reach out. Let's sit down. Let's talk. See what we can do, work in regards to helping you get to that point where you're thriving, and whatever part that is. So you can always send me a message, several different ways that you can reach out, connect with me, because that's the biggest thing. Based on what I went through, the stories and the 14 months of just being in pain and being angry and whatnot, didn't serve me, but it led me to where I'm at now. And so I know with what I've gone through and where I'm at, it's impactful, and it's things that people truly need to understand, that the relationship that's most important that you have to work on is the relationship with yourself, because that bleeds into everything else. So again, thank you guys for your support. Appreciate everything that you guys do for allowing us to come and do this. But also just for you as an individual, just being a great individual. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for what you bring to the table. Thank you for you being you and embracing who you are. And hopefully you get to the point where you can look at yourself, love yourself fully, and start putting out that true love, that unconditional love out to other individuals. So other than that, catch you guys later. Appreciate it. Love you.